Before I begin, let me tell you that I am the vice president of a renowned multinational company. Since we dabble in a range of businesses, we have several companies under us. So a few weeks ago, I had to visit one of the companies for some work. The company was a branch of our company rather than a subsidiary. The weather was sunny after a long time, so I sent my chauffeur home and drove to the office building myself. The meeting was finished just in time, and I was going to leave when I saw dark clouds enveloping the visible sky. It was indeed going to rain, and every time it rained, traffic worsened in the area I lived in. I wanted to get home quickly, so I took the elevator and headed to the parking lot. There weren't a lot of cars in the lot. Most of the people must have gone home. It was around 5:30 p.m., and the office hours were 9:30 to 5. I walked towards my car when I felt a nudge on my arm. I turned to find a middle-aged lady observing the cars carefully. "You," she said, "do you have a car?" I thought that maybe she wanted a lift, so she asked. I politely smiled and told her that I had brought my car to the office. If she wanted a lift, I could drop her in her neighborhood if it wasn't on the opposite side of my home. She smiled back and blurted at once, "Good, I don't want a lift though. Now give me your car keys. I will bring the car tomorrow, and you could take it then." Huh? What just happened? I thought to myself, was this a joke? I had never had some stranger come up to me and ask me to hand them my belongings, especially without a request or a reason. I felt like it was a joke. Maybe she was an old coworker I had forgotten about, and she was just being friendly with me. "Excuse me?" I asked. I wanted to make sure if she was really being serious. She shrugged and asked, "What's your problem? I have to get home soon. Give me the car keys now." Do I have to repeat it twice for your slow brain? Or do you want me to fire you instantly? I couldn't believe it at all. So she wasn't joking, and she had the audacity to demand something from someone without asking for their permission, as if she had every right over my belongings. I asked her who she was. She scowled and clicked her tongue. What is your problem? Do you even know your superiors? Do you only come here to chill? I am the assistant manager of the PR team, of course. What are you, a new hire? I didn't have anything to say to her anymore. I could hear the light sound of pitter-patter coming from a distance. I walked to my car and opened the door. Karen ran towards me and tightly grabbed my arm. Her face was full of fury. She howled that she was my boss and asked how I dared to disobey her. Do you want your boss to get wet in the rain? You are a lowly office employee, so you don't have much work. But I am the manager. If I am sick, who will take the responsibility, huh? And just when I thought she couldn't blabber any more crap, I had no intention to talk or hear her any further. In fact, I wished a meteor would hit us and she'd disappear. And that wasn't possible, so I did what was possible. I removed her hand and told her to move. What? How could you? Don't think you are getting out of this. I haven't brought my car today and my in-laws are coming. You have a nice car, so I will get to show off a little, plus I have to be there by 6. I will give you the car tomorrow. You can take the bus or train right now. I think Mr. X is still in the office. He'll give you a lift. And I will lessen your workload a bit by giving part of your work to the new interns. Come on, quick now. I don't really pray, but I prayed that day to God to give me a little patience. In my head, I was already cursing her. I sat in my car, and just as I was about to start my engine, she started loudly hitting the window. I rolled down the window and asked her to move, or else someone would regret it. She let out a chuckle and sarcastically said, "Regret? I'm going to make you sorry. You are fired. Dismissed. Do the paperwork and take your stuff out of my office immediately. If I ever see you again in this office building, I will raise hell." I rolled up the windows and drove away. I saw her mouthing colorful language from the rear view mirror. The next day, I went to my office normally. We had scheduled a meeting in the other office on the upcoming Friday morning since we were launching a new product. I was so busy I had forgotten all about what happened the day before. Friday came and I went to the office. The meeting went on for 1.5 hours. It was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was about to go back to our office when my secretary asked us to get lunch in the office cafeteria. I thought it would be okay too because it would save time. As soon as I stepped into the cafeteria, I spotted Karen sitting alone and eating. Unfortunately, our eyes met. I was in no mood to entertain her in her stupid demands. I walked towards the counter in hopes to ignore her, but she stood up in front of me and suddenly pointed her finger at me. Why you? Why are you here? I fired you, didn't I? Did you think I wouldn't notice? I'm calling security right now. She looked at everyone and screamed at the top of her voice that she fired me, and still I had no pride in myself. I was coming to the office despite the fact that I was no longer employed. My secretary looked at me suspiciously and whispered if it was some joke I planned with the crazy woman. I told her it was a long story. To put it simply, I said, this woman thinks she's my boss. The secretary frowned and stared blankly at Karen. Karen was absolutely seething at the sight of me. She asked me which department I belonged to. I didn't reply to her at all. She grabbed my tie and started looking for an ID card. I didn't wear any. She mocked me by saying that I was an irresponsible little clown and that I should know better than to wear an ID card at all times, especially since I'm a junior. Then she looked at my secretary and asked where she worked and that she would fire her too for looking down on her. Someone from her department stood beside Karen and asked her what the matter was. Karen loudly started complaining about how I, a mere junior, didn't give her my car when she asked me to, and how that led to her being drenched in the rain because she couldn't get a taxi. Then she blamed me for the little fight she had with her husband and how her mother-in-law insulted her in front of the whole family when she was late. She was trying to guilt me for her actions. She said that her mother-in-law ended up humiliating her, and this wouldn't have happened if I was a little more considerate of my superiors who worked much more than me. She pretended to cough and added that she was sick a day later and had to take a holiday, which made her work overtime. The more she talked, the deeper she dug a grave for herself. Her ignorance and entitlement were showing. She thought she was portraying herself as a victim, but nobody was buying it. Some were laughing, some were surprised, and some were asking if she was doing this as some sort of play. Even the people who weren't aware of my position in the company understood that this lady was a privileged lunatic. When she was finished complaining, I asked her to move. She pushed me and screamed in my face to leave at once. Just then, the manager arrived. He was horrified. He kept looking at me apologetically and asking me if I was okay. I have fired him for misbehavior. Why are you being so nice to me? The manager looked over his shoulder and asked me what was happening, and I simply shrugged. I haven't a clue, I told them. I asked the manager to bring that woman to the office in the next 5 minutes. Then I instructed my secretary to have her lunch and meet me in the office in half an hour. I sat in the office and took a deep breath. For some reason, I found it comical. The manager came in and asked me what had happened, and I quickly briefed him on everything. What the hell? Wow, he said, emphasizing the word wow. I asked him to investigate and find out if she was bullying someone in the office. Karen knocked and I asked her to come in. She was confused to see me sitting in the boss's chair. What's happening? Why is he sitting there, manager? We don't need such a lowlife. Just as she was about to complete that sentence, I warned her to not say anything that she couldn't take back in the future. She was befuddled and kept looking back and forth at the both of us. I said, "Well, I don't work here." Karen's face turned red from embarrassment. She was about to ask who I was when the manager explained, "This is the vice president. He's from our parent company." Karen was shaken. Her lips were quivering. She gulped and asked, "VP?" I almost laughed when she said it so pathetically. The poor woman didn't know what she was getting into. I smiled and told her that I was going to hold her accountable and that I was going to take action. The way she forced and bullied me into giving her my car showed me that she needed to be disciplined. I said that she needed to understand how to treat her coworkers. She is not above them or entitled to something simply because she is in a higher position. That's textbook abuse of power. Then I awarded her a mandatory class on sensitivity training for the next 4 weeks. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she couldn't say anything anymore. The manager later told me that she had demanded things often from her coworkers, and if someone didn't obey her, she threatened to fire them. I mailed her and told her that if she didn't correct her behavior, I would make sure she's never hired anywhere else, especially in a company that was equal to ours. I never heard any complaints from her ever again. This happened a couple days ago in Hollywood, Florida. I traded up my phone for the holidays on AT&T's website and arranged to pick up in my nearest store. The receipt I had for the pickup said that the phone was being held until December 30th, so I go in on the 29th to pick it up. I needed to get to work, and I wasn't going to be available to leave work during business hours, so it had to be then. I was hoping the whole process would take 15 minutes. It didn't. I get there, and the individual, Alan, tells me that my phone wasn't available because I had waited too long and they had canceled my pickup, even though I had until the next day to do so. I showed him the email that says that, and he shrugs his shoulders and he says that they canceled the order because they counted the day I placed the order as one of the days towards cancellation, which is obviously stupid. Then he offers to sell me the phone that I was trying to pick up because it's impossible for me to pick up the phone that was being held for me. I just want my goddamn phone, so I agree to go through the purchase process, and as it turns out, I will have to pay for the phone again and let AT&T refund the funds for the original order. Major bullcrap, but again, this is all the time I have to pick up my phone. I asked him for the phone number of someone I can speak with about what is going on, and he tells me I need to speak to customer retention and gives me a phone number he pulls off a list. So he goes through the process, and by then I'm late for work. And he's telling me he's having problems selling me the last unit of the phone I wanted to purchase. He tries to upsell me. I told him I want the gosh dang phone I ordered and tells me that he's having some problem because the system is not letting him sell that unit. It's the last unit he has, so he needs to take extra steps to sell it to me. So now he goes on his phone and makes some phone calls to try to unlock this unit. Meanwhile, he leaves me alone long enough to find out that the phone number he gave me was bullcrap. It led to a non-working extension for AT&T, and it would just stay on hold. I went on Google and discovered this by finding the actual customer retention phone number and calling it. So now I'm speaking with a customer retention specialist, and I explained to him what is happening over the phone. The retention specialist confirms that yes, my phone is available for pickup and has not been canceled. Meanwhile, on his phone, I can hear Alan speaking with someone at AT&T, and the person he's speaking with says over the speakerphone, "I can't allow you to sell that phone. It's being held until tomorrow for customer pickup." So I asked the person on Alan's phone to repeat that and confirm that yes, Alan was trying to sell me the phone that I had already purchased and was there to pick up. Then I asked the customer retention person I'm speaking with if he heard the other individual's comment. The customer retention rep confirms that he heard what the other AT&T rep has said. And the retention rep asked me to confirm the store number I'm located at and the name of the person I'm speaking with. At that point, Alan, upon realizing I'm speaking with customer retention and retention heard everything he's trying to do with my phone, told me to leave the store and tells me he's going to call the police if I don't. The customer retention rep on the phone hears him kick me out of the store. So I didn't have my phone that day, but I did have it delivered to my house the next day UPS, which was nice. And I did get to have a conference call with a regional manager from AT&T, along with a supervisor at customer retention and a manager for third-party dealer locations, while the customer retention specialist confirms everything I was telling them. I didn't get my phone that day, but I did ruin someone else's, and that was way more satisfying. Edit. Dispute over ownership of a property during a sale is not a police issue. If I had waited for them and refused to leave, they would not have taken my side. They would have arrested me. Ownership of a paid-for item at worst is a civil course issue, and no cop is going to arrest some dude at an AT&T store for not giving me my phone unless he had lifted it out of my pocket. Please stop suggesting I should have waited for the police. I was already on the phone with corporate and late for work. I work for an embroidery company that embroiders logos onto uniform shirts. There is this one particular shirt we get all the time that has a diagonal closure, so the left side of the chest is essentially covered by a huge flap coming from the right side. There is such little room on the left side that any logo bigger than an inch looks like it's going into the person's armpit. After a few complaints, we made it a policy to only allow that shirt to put logos on the right. A big company we work with likes to make massive orders with generalized embroidery placement. Example, 10 different types of garments, all embroidered with the logo on the left chest. Whenever I would see that this particular shirt was in the mix, I would reach out to them to let them know we needed to switch the logo to the right side. One difficult manager from that company reached out to their client with my suggestion and got an earful because the client insisted that the logo could only be placed on the left due to the company policy. Instead of smoothing it over with her client, this rep took it out on me. She sent me a very aggressive email stating that we were perfectly capable of embroidering this shirt on the left side because we had done it in the past, and to stop blowing up her inbox with our suggestions for a better embroidery location. From now on, whatever embroidery location the order requests is final. I saved the email and got my boss's blessing to immediately stop all quality control emails for this company per manager. One day, a huge order comes in, all diagonal closure shirts, all left side embroidery. I maliciously complied and sent the order on its way with no hassle to the manager. A week later, an executive from that company emails me, horrified. He forwarded photos of the client's shirts, all with the logos on the armpits. He said they were having to refund the client over $10,000 and that the client was in an uproar, never wanting to order shirts from them again. Why did we not tell them that this was a bad location for the embroidery? I didn't say a word, simply forwarded the email the manager sent me, telling me verbatim that I was to no longer waste the company's time making useless suggestions for those shirts. Editing to add fallout. It was confirmed they had to do a big fat refund and I did not see a reorder. So I suspect the client dismissed them as a vendor. It was a huge client. I think it's a very swanky hotel brand. We don't usually get emails from the executives, so I think they were really hoping for big bucks with these guys. Oh well. As far as the manager goes, I suspect she was demoted. They sent us a very polite, groveling email introducing a new manager and requesting that we resume our quality control, emphasizing that we knew best.